Hi, welcome to PlanStrongerTV. I'm your host, David Holland. On today's program, we're going to speak with Wendy Mara, an attorney in Ormond Beach, Florida, about special needs trust. Do you need one as part of your overall estate plan? Does your situation call for that? Stick around, we're going to dig right in. Welcome back. So, special needs trust. What in the world am I talking about? A special needs trust, generally speaking, and I'm not an attorney, you know that by now. A special needs trust is a particular type of trust that is established to conform with the requirements of protecting assets in that trust for a specific purpose related to, primarily, government benefits. When somebody is disabled or has other qualifying status or situation that allows them to get certain governmental benefits, putting a special needs trust in place and putting money into it or putting assets into it. The whole point of that is to preserve and protect that money for the benefit of the beneficiary, who is usually someone with special needs. So hence the name Special Needs Trust. It's also called a supplemental trust or supplemental income trust because it's used to supplement the income or provide for somebody already receiving other benefits, so it supplements those government benefits. It might be benefits related to a disability, as I said, or it might be something else. So the complexity comes with, number one, conforming and adhering to the federal and state-specific requirements for making sure that those assets that are in this trust for a person who's otherwise receiving benefits from the government, that bringing those assets into the equation doesn't preempt or keep the person from getting the governmental benefits. So the whole point of this, and I'm trying to put it in plain English because this is complicated, is to preserve money to help somebody with their needs in the future. I'm going to have Wendy Mara, a local attorney in Ormond Beach, help us discuss this. Stay right there. Welcome back, and I am very glad to bring back to the program Wendy Mara, Mara Law. Wendy is in Ormond Beach, Florida. In fact, she's just across the street from my office. Wendy, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me again.
We're glad to have you back. We've got another estate planning topic to dig into. So real quick, we've got a couple disclaimers for our viewers. We're not going to give you legal advice today. And of course, Wendy's background and her legal training is in the state of Florida and Florida law. So if you're watching this program in another state, then of course, that sounds like a telephone commercial, right? But you need to look at the laws and work with an attorney who is licensed and schooled in the state law where they are. Other disclaimers, Wendy and I do work together, and so we have a good working relationship, but I always like for people to know if I'm working with a guest that is on the program. So let's dive into another topic that I need your help talking to the viewers about. And within this big, broad area of estate planning and people getting their legal house in order, there's an area that's kind of a subset, if you will, of estate planning, and it deals with the area of what's called special needs or supplemental needs, and oftentimes people are talking about a trust. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to have you help me dig into that, where the need for a special trust, a special needs trust, when does somebody need that? What are some of the circumstances or conditions that might make that appropriate, that's needed beyond some of the basics? Okay. So now, we've got a little bit of time, so we can't do a 3-hour talk on it, although Wendy and I would love to talk about this for 3 hours. So,
but some basic information is really important to know. Many times when somebody is doing their estate planning and they have a relative or somebody that they love and they want to leave some money to somebody who has special needs, their thought is in their estate planning documents, they're going to leave something to that particular person. And it's a wonderful thing that they are thinking of somebody who has special needs. However, that can be counterproductive because if, and it depends upon the situation of the person who has special needs.
Sure.
So if you have somebody who is disabled and that person is collecting any type of government aid for their disability, then it's important to know what type of government aid is being collected. If it's SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance, that is based on the work history of that particular person. And as we work, we get credits, whether it's for retirement at the end of our work history, or if it's we become disabled during the course of our working, we are eligible to collect the SSDI. If you are collecting SSDI and somebody were to leave you an inheritance,
A large chunk of money.
a large chunk of money, that is not going to hurt you because the SSDI is not determined based on your financial need. It's
Okay.
based on your work credits
And your disability.
and your disability.
Okay.
And that can change. I mean, if you can be disabled and then down the road,
Not be.
depending upon what your disability is, not be. But it's totally dependent upon your work credits. So if you receive an inheritance, if you have other assets, you can. That's not going to affect the money that you continue to get through the government.
Okay.
However, if you are on SSI, which is Supplemental Security Insurance, SSI is directly related to your need.
Okay.
And so if, and I've seen this in my practice come out in ways that are unexpected. So if you, for example, if you are receiving SSI and you're in the midst of a family law case, a divorce, and you start receiving some alimony, that's going to affect your SSI.
Okay.
If you receive an equitable distribution, that's from the divorce, that's going to affect your SSI. If you are going along and you're collecting the SSI and a family relative thinks they're helping you and leaving you a chunk of money as an inheritance, thinking that can be used over and above your
Right.
SSI, the unfortunate result is that you're assuming the government discovers that you've received this inheritance, your SSI can be and probably will be taken away.
Okay. So the whole idea then with creating a special type of trust, a special needs trust, is to address this income-based or asset-based qualification for benefits from government or something else.
Exactly. So as a recipient of SSI, you are allowed up to $2,000 in an account.
That much?
That much, exactly. Doesn't sound like it. It's not a whole lot.
It's not.
However, the thought is, and even if that income was from your SSI and it's just building up, that's
right.
not. But the
So you
whole
gotta spend it.
purpose, exactly, the whole purpose of the SSI is for food and shelter, and obviously some other thing, but it usually is not very much money. You're talking sometimes under $800, $400 or $500 a month. It's
Okay.
not a lot of money, but there are other benefits besides that SSI check that the person is getting every month. Maybe they're getting some housing and some Medicaid benefits. I mean, there's other things that they're getting along with that. So if they no longer are qualified for the SSI, that's not the only problem. There
Has a
also,
ripple effect.
It has the ripple effect. They're not qualified for the Medicaid. They may be receiving some housing assistance. They're not qualified for that anymore. So the effect can be enormous.
So if somebody has a special needs beneficiary, it doesn't matter if the relative, whatever it is, they will want to create a special trust, special needs trust,
Exactly.
and have that be where the money goes. So they create that during their lifetime or at their death, and the asset they want that person to get goes into the trust to be held for that person's benefit and then given to them
And the important thing, and you're a trustee, so the important
Sure.
thing is that the money cannot be used for food or shelter. So education, medical equipment that they're not getting paid, that the government's not paying for, vacations, art lessons, music lessons, anything
Can
that
they
clothing.
spend money on food on the vacation?
That, yes.
Okay.
But the money cannot be paid directly to the beneficiary, so their guardian, their parent,
Okay.
somebody who's caring for them, that sort of thing. And there are two types of special needs trusts. There is a first-party special needs trust, so if an individual has a personal injury lawsuit and collects a lump sum settlement.
It's their money.
That's their money. That's a first-party special needs trust. It used to be up until December of 2016.
In Florida?
Not just in Florida,
Oh, okay.
federal.
Federal, okay.
There was federal change to the law that it used to be that the settlor, the individual who has a special needs, could not create a first-party special needs
themselves.
trust for
Okay.
themselves. Somebody had to do it for them, a guardian, a parent, or get court order. And that was, and I think in oversight, they corrected it in December of 2016. So now the settlor can be the person who actually receives the funds. Not all people who have a special needs trust are necessarily adjudicated to be needing a guardian. So sometimes they have, even though they have a special need, it could have nothing to do with their ability to think and handle their own funds.
Okay.
So a first-party special needs trust is for somebody who receives the money themselves, whether it's from a personal injury lawsuit, any other type of lawsuit, is oftentimes where that's coming from. It's important that that money be put in that special needs trust created by that person or a guardian or a family member. A third party, well, before I go on to the third party special needs trust, with the first party special needs trust, once the individual who is the beneficiary is deceased, whatever money is remaining needs to go back to the state to pay back the state for any benefits that they have paid on behalf.
Income, insurances,
Whatever the
medical,
state has paid,
okay.
right. So unless you're talking large sums of money, there's probably not going to be anything left.
Okay.
Now, that's a big difference with the third-party special needs trust, which is created by an individual on behalf of the person with special needs, and it's usually it's an inheritance where somebody's...
Not that person's money.
Exactly. So it's
To
either
begin
through
with.
an inheritance
Right.
or somebody can create one if they have money and they want to gift money every year for tax purposes. Make sure that goes into a special needs trust. That's a third-party special needs trust. Biggest difference with that is that once the beneficiary passes away, those funds, and there should be language in the trust that dictates that, those funds can go to other beneficiaries.
Okay.
It does not go back to the government because it was never that disabled person's money to begin with.
I got you. So they may have received benefits from the state, but this was never their money. It's really somebody else providing for them to supplement and be for other things like you talked about to
Exactly.
make them more comfortable.
Exactly. And then and I think it's also important to talk about pooled special needs trusts, which they have first party and third party also. And a pooled special needs trust is very useful for somebody who has some money,
But not a lot.
but not a lot. So you don't have to worry about setting up an individual trust and setting up and getting a professional trustee. The pooled special needs trust, they take all the money and put it in a pool. Now, there has to be sub-accounts
Sure.
so that
Gotta be
there
accounted
can be
for.
an accounting for each individual person, but it's less expensive, and the trustees are professional trustees, and it has to be in the state of Florida that pooled special trust must be, a nonprofit must run it.
Okay.
Now, if it's a first person, again, the same type of rules. First person, it goes back to the state, but the difference is the nonprofit can actually take some funds out
see.
of that and use it for their programs, like there's the public guardianship program, they have a pooled trust. They take some of that money to help with the program itself. Again, the third party pooled trust, the same type of idea that there are going to be fees taken out at the end, but that can go back to whomever set it up.
So with each of these types, there's, depending on the situation, which is appropriate type of special needs trust. With each of them, though, there are some common elements. There's a need for a trust. There's a need for a document. There's a need for somebody to create it. There's a need for a clear identification of beneficiaries or remainder beneficiaries. And also, you mentioned trustee. That's a big one.
Right.
Who's going to be in charge of that trust? It's not going to be that person for whom the benefits are provided or the money's for. It needs to be somebody else. Now, sometimes it's a family member, sometimes it's a professional.
My opinion, when you're talking about regular trusts, I don't have any issue with a family member serving as trustee. When you're talking about special needs trusts, you have to really be careful. I prefer a professional, whether it's in a pooled trust or a professional trustee, because you have somebody who knows how the money can and cannot be spent. So, I had one situation where the disabled person, even though he could not drive, wanted a flashy red sports car and kept pressuring the trustee.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
I don't know. I don't. I'm a van person.
Okay,
with the
all right,
number
a
of
flashy
kids that
red van.
Flashy red van. But, it's really difficult for a family member to say no. Whereas a professional trustee it's easy. I mean, you're disconnected in a sense because you're a professional and
Well,
this is going to hurt
and the thing that a lot of people really, I think the viewers need to know is that when somebody is a professional trustee, they have responsibilities and they are accountable. And a lot of it is they have liability.
Exactly.
If they don't do what that trust says, then they can be held liable, either potential fines or penalties or be sued and or their professional licenses. There's a lot on the line and at stake for them to do it correctly.
Right. And so I highly recommend, when you're talking a special needs trust, I highly recommend that you have somebody. I have created some special needs trusts where a professional guardian is the trustee of the trust. So, that I don't have a problem with because the professional guardian has training and knows. But to have a family member be the trustee, it can be dangerous. And what happens is if you lose those SSI benefits, you don't get them back until the money is gone.
Wow.
So it really defeats the purpose
Right.
of having created, provided those funds. It really defeats the purpose. So
Well, and that makes it another important argument, Wendy. This is not do-it-yourself.
No.
This is not get the form from the office supply store off the shelf or fill it in. And I even, I may get some grief for this, but I'm not a big fan of the, trying to do it on the computer. I've worked with you, and I know how much you know, or I think I know some of what you know, but there's so much to this that you're going to be able, as a professional attorney, work with your client and bring things to light that we may not even thought of.
Right, and I don't know that you could actually even find a special needs trust at one of these stores where they sell regular documents because it is very specialized and that area is changing. There's always changes. You have to keep up with it, or you are at risk of losing somebody's
benefits. And each state has some of their own laws and statutes related to this, in addition to what's at the federal level.
Right, so how they implement the laws at the federal level differs. But, again, if you're wanting to create a special needs trust. Now, the nice thing about a third-party special needs trust is it can be revocable. So the settlor can make changes to that if it's part of their estate planning. So it's a trust within a trust. They can make changes to that, but a first-party special needs trust is irrevocable. You cannot make changes to it because the whole purpose is to keep that money for the benefit of the person and not have somebody taking it out and spending it on other
Well,
things.
there's a lot to this, Wendy. I'm glad we could share with the viewers a little bit, just to give them a taste of some of this. The key thing, takeaway is, it is special, no pun intended, and you better get special advice and you better work with somebody that knows this, but it can be a great tool. So I'm so glad you could be with us to talk about it.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Wendy Mara, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, time for viewer questions. Now, I get this question a lot. Whenever I do a financial talk or a seminar or when I meet with people, I get lots of questions about trusts. And so one of the most basic questions I get is, do I need a trust if I have a will? Do I need to have a will and I need a power of attorney? If I have a power of attorney, do I need a healthcare surrogate? And I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on television. But I can tell you from working with attorneys and from the training I have had in the area of trusts and estate planning, that for a lot of people, they need at least a will, and they need at least the power of attorney and the healthcare surrogate and a living will, telling people to pull the plug when you're not coming back. But when you get beyond some of the basics, one of the biggest questions I get is about, do I need a trust? Or why would I need a trust? So I'll give you two examples real quick of situations where it makes a lot of sense to have a trust. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. That's the other thing, is everybody thinks that trust is this really foreign, complicated, tons of legal jargon, and it's going to be super expensive. And it doesn't have to be that way. I've worked with attorneys where it's very straightforward, a very clear, well put forth trust document that's easy to understand. But a couple quick examples. Number one, I had a gentleman a few years back who had about $1.5 million in assets, so a good chunk of money. He wanted to leave money to his family, certain specific people that he wanted to also, non-family, and also to some charities. He took the time to plan it out. And by doing that, he had all of these things arranged, including having a trust. Now, because he did that, when he later died unexpectedly, everything was ready. His wishes, his desires to leave money to certain people and to charities were accomplished. I know because I was his executor and I'm still his trustee today, distributing money out to the charities based on the criteria he set. It's a beautiful thing. If he hadn't have done that, it would have been a royal mess. The cost would have been very significant without the proper planning. Example number two, husband and wife have about $500,000 in assets. They have one daughter. They're not comfortable with her getting all the money at once. They said to me, if she gets all of it, it will kill her. We want the money to go to her over time. Easily solved. It doesn't have to be this insurmountable, complicated thing. They establish a trust. When something happens to them, all of their assets will be rounded up, liquidated, held in the trust to then be managed, conserved, protected, and then distributed to her on a monthly basis, like an allowance. And she's going to get about $2,000 a month for the rest of her life. Now, during their lifetime, they can still change this document. If things change for her, she straightens out, they feel comfortable changing to where she's going to get all of her money at once or get it quicker, that's fine. But if things go as they expect or as they are now, she'll get money over time. She can't make the trustee give her more money quicker, and that protects her from herself. Should you do a trust? It depends on your situation, but I think it's definitely worth considering. And if you consider it, you know what I'm going to say. It'll help you plan stronger. One more thing before you go. Does everybody need a trust? No, not everybody needs a trust. Does everybody need a will? Does everybody need a power of attorney? Does everybody need a healthcare surrogate? Does everybody need a living will or advance directive? No, it depends on your situation. But I can tell you that for a lot of situations, a trust makes sense. And there's plenty of situations where it's unnecessary. You can accomplish in many situations all you need to do with a will and maybe a power of attorney. And again, this all depends on your situation and getting advice from an attorney who's going to listen to your situation, evaluate your needs, and make recommendations to you based on the state that you live in, based on where your assets are located, based on your particular circumstances. But keep in mind, a lot of these documents are not just about transferring money to your beneficiaries. They're also about making sure that your needs are met. Imagine that. So remember, put the mask on yourself before you try to help others, right? Like they have in the airline commercials. So get these things in place to look out for your needs. One of the things that's really interesting and effective or powerful about a trust is that it will provide for you, where if you become incapacitated, somebody else can step in, your successor trustee, and manage those assets and distribute the money out to you or to pay bills or whatever the case may be. But there's also plenty of situations where that might not be necessary based on your assets, and all you need is a simple will to take what you own and distribute it out to your beneficiaries. And a power of attorney may be able to take care of your financial obligations if you're not able to take care of it yourself. So think about those things, and I'll bet you'll plan stronger.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.